So, yeah, so there'll be different pollinator plants, kind of cool. I think they're gonna work on some signage as well to get the word out of what they're doing, so it might look a little odd with a lot of different random plants, but, and Dave came through with some milkweed that she'll be able to plant, so helping pollinators and on our fireflies, so, yeah, pretty cool.
That'd be cool. Putting the drip system in, oh yeah, I've been working on that. There in the corner. Good.
What was the name of that park?
Sandridge.
Can I say one more thing?
Mhm.
I think we may have, this may have fallen off our radar a little bit, but when we were at the LEAP conference today, they were talking, they kind of did videos, you know, different cities and whatnot, and I remember we brought back that, it wasn't the I Love My City campaign, but there was that campaign where you invite elected officials, your representatives, to different activities and events that you're having in your city. And I think we may have lost track of that a little bit, and just want to remind us to invite them to come to different activities and events that we have in the city, just so that we can help to kind of continue to, you know, foster the relationships we have, and not just reaching out during the session, you know, let them come to fun stuff to remind them. So I did see Senator Stevenson at the community night at Northridge. I know that Northridge invited him, not us, but still, it's in the city. And then I also saw Trevor Lee at the firehouse open, or fire station open house. I think Carrie Ann Lisenby was also at the community night. So just something to keep in mind, that we can stay in front of them with different activities and things that we have going on in the city, instead of just reaching out during the session.
Yeah.
I just can't remember the name of that
My Places.
initiative.
My-
Faces and
Faces
Places.
and Places.
That's what it was. Faces and Places, yeah.
Okay, we, as Bettina mentioned, we were at the league meetings. We got our Healthy City Utah, we got that renewed as well. I guess it's every 3 years, you get to renew it. And so Morgan Cloward was there to help with that, got the plaque, got the certificate, took our pictures. So we're good for the next little bit. That was kind of a good for the city. We had the caucus meeting with the cities of the first and second class, and the main topic was, it's going to be, I guess, number one in the session is property taxes. And what do we do with property tax? Do you cap it? Do you, the state's super interested in that. And so, yeah, you can see Alex is like, wait, what? Yeah. So there's lots of stuff going on with that. One of the ideas that was mentioned as well was the truth in taxation process is moving it forward into the budget part of the year. And so you might, I mean, if it passes, I guess, you would, if you were going to raise property taxes, you could do it during the normal budget process. And so it's not something after, it's during the other time where we're already out with the public and we already have the hearings and they know what we're trying to accomplish, and that might be something to help with that. But yeah, so we need to keep that on our radar. We'll do that.
So just to clarify, they're talking about capping what the.
That was one of
change
the ideas that we heard in the meeting, is all the things going back and forth. Was one of the rumors was that was one of them, was capping what you could do with the rates and such. It's already difficult.
Correct, truth in taxation does that.
It's already there. It's already difficult. It's already those things. So they brought it up in that, and then they brought it up in the general session today and business session, like, this is something that we're really concerned about. So.
It was also interesting in our caucus meeting yesterday, that conversation was also brought up when talking about or thinking about housing and affordability. And so one of the folks in our session was asking about, thinking about property tax, like we talk about the housing affordability discussion, but then there's not really a discussion about the property tax piece, which we know that property taxes continue to increase as well. So even when you're looking at affordability, if that's a way that they could look at, you know, making housing more affordable, and that's when everything else kind of busted open about there being a number of different discussions, perhaps bill files opening around what to do with property taxes. So it was, yeah, it was pretty interesting to see how it.
And Cam was in his discussions with whomever he was talking to, he didn't let us know who that was, but like, you know, that's the school boards and the other utilities that are, those property taxes keep raising, right? And the city's such a small portion of that property tax bill that you get every year. You just kind of get lumped in on with everybody else. So, the other question I had was where are we with you mentioned the water fee? You were giving comment, is that comment period closed, or what are we?
Well, there's two water fees that are being discussed.
Two water fees, now it's two?
Well, so one is the Division of Drinking Water
Yes.
that needs some funding, so that's the one we provided comment on. There is they call it the UIP, which is the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan. That fee is still being discussed, and they're having public meetings on that as well, so we're involved in that. There's a meeting, I believe, up in Brigham City that we're going to attend, and we will provide some feedback on that as well.
Were those talked about at the conference?
Side conversations.
One of those is, well, both are really a change where the state's assessing the fee but forcing the cities to collect it on our billing system. And one of them is pretty significant, at least in early proposals, and it's very significant.
The state's got funding issues with federal, not just drinking water, other things, and it's gonna be interesting where the budget ends up, revenue with big beautiful bill, so.
Do the departments have the administrative power to just administer those fees, or do they need legislative
So
changes?
the legislation passed last year for them to be able to propose the fees, and then I believe that it has to be adopted in the budget, with the governor's budget.
But the legislation last year, that wasn't anticipating this reduction in federal monies, was it? Or wasn't that more Representative, what's his name?
Snyder.
Snyder's bill that he tried to pass for like 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
That was more along those lines, right? And so now we've got that, which is still being looked at. But then in addition to that,
Yeah,
there's
so-
the
so-
decrease in federal funding.
Yeah, the bill last year allowed for them to look into these fees,
Got it.
and the proposals were much less, and then all of a sudden the federal funding dropped, and now the offsets are happening, so they're looking at what they need. And a lot of the UIP program that they're looking at is to either build new infrastructure for the growth that's happening in the state, but it's also to replace a lot of the infrastructure that the federal government helped build back in the 50s and
Yeah.
60s that is now aging out, and they're not planning to help pay for it. So that's where some of these numbers are coming out, and they're a little eye-opening right now for what it is.
One of the things, Stephen, correct me, not to say too much, I don't know too much about it, but one of as we looked at it from staff, is a little bit concerning, and maybe this is the only way they think they can do it, is that they're, on one of those, the two issues, there's probably a disproportion in terms of the demand. It's disproportionate rural versus urban or suburban, and yet the fee structure is that the cities that have population, in one of the cases, I think, 80% of the money or 75% of the money or something like that was being generated by the 10, 11 largest cities in the state. So that was a little bit of a concern that there isn't a more equal distribution, recognizing that some of those rural areas, they don't have the resources, but that might be an opportunity where the state fights some of their money rather than taxing citizens of the Wasatch Front for, posting the fees for them. So it's interesting. And they expect us to do the billing for those, and put those on our utility bills, and
Be a
Here's
case
how
where we
it plays out.
actually line item that
yeah.
in the bill instead of it's hard, water rates are, as we know, it's difficult, and to just lump it into your water bill, well, that $3 or $4 or whatever it is, what could we do if we were raising rates like that for our infrastructure? And so we need that spot, we need that space, so I'd line item it. If I have whatever it is, so it's known at least.
Oh, you didn't. Sorry, you guys, I had texted Zach to say start
So,
without me.
Yeah, so one of the proposed drinking water fee,
Okay.
the proposed drinking water fee was 3 cents per 1,000 gallons. The fee for the UIP, their projection was it could be as much as $16 per month. That would,
Per resident.
per connection. So, yeah, there needs to
If you
be.
do $16 per month property tax increase,
Yeah.
that would be, you'd get a lot of feedback.
I
That's-
literally had a
there's a need.
conversation with somebody about, I mean, not this, but just wanting to understand the increase that, you know, she had before. You know, basically saying, well, I don't even use the minimum amount of water, you know, but I'm still charged that minimum rate. So I was explaining to her about our system and just the upgrades to the pipes and all of that, which she was grateful, you know, to understand what it was about, and it wasn't about how much you're using, unless you're using way too much, right? But then explaining something like this, I mean, we can say, oh, it's the state, and blame them, because it is, the state passed down from the federal, but I'm with Clint, like, depending on where this lands, whether it's $2 or $16 or whatever it is, I still think there needs to be a line item stating like this is state, you know, a state required fee, or what, it really is a tax. I mean, they're gonna call it a fee, but it needs to be itemized, just like property taxes are.
Good point.
Mayor's
I said
here.
it first.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No,
Continue on.
you're good.
No, was that your last thing from?
Yeah, that was it from, we just got done with the council member reports.
Okay.
So, I guess if you have a mayor's report, you can do that, and we can just,
Not really. No, I'm good. Other than, I guess, good conference.
hmm?
Well, thanks for attending, you guys. Okay, well then, we're on to item number 3, right?
Oh, I do have one more thing, sorry. I
Sure.
forgot to mention. So we were told, and Clint probably already knew this because he's on one of the board members, but the National League of Cities and Towns is going to be holding their conference in Utah this fall, is that right? Or in
November 20th through the 22nd.
And they rarely come to the western part of the US, and so they're gonna be here, and our locals day is gonna be November 21st. And so we'll get more information about that, but I think that's pretty cool for us to be able to attend that, because, yeah, they would, not likely they'll be back here for another, I don't know, decade or so. So, yeah, just mark your calendar for November 21st.
Did they say where?
I don't think they did.
I think I've seen it,
it's
it's
a-
a Salt Palace. isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Pretty
be
sure it's a
good.
Salt Palace.
Okay, anything else, Ben? Sounds like I missed some good updates here, that's for sure. So I appreciate you guys.
Live stream.
Yeah, you can watch the-
Yeah.
you can watch it.
Yeah, there's too much going forward. It goes backwards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and go on to item number 3, which is the adoption of our master transportation plan, which we had a few, we've already spent some time on it, but Mr. Jackson's gonna kind of go over his portion again.
Well, yeah, ultimately, I'm not going to plan on going through the slides again in this meeting. The next meeting, I will add quite a bit so that the public can see what we've talked about.
All 200
You want all 200 pages? Clint, that'll be.
Yeah, because you read them.
In 2
but-
hours that you may have had.
But yeah, realistically, if there's any questions that I can answer, just a couple of things to kind of remind you all is there's 3 components to this update. One is the master transportation plan, the other is the impact fee facilities plan, and then the third is the impact fee analysis. If the council chooses to adopt that tonight, there needs to be a vote to adopt the 3 components, but then also, talking with Clint, it would be good if we could make sure to mention in the motion that the impact fees will not take effect for 90 days because that's part of the state laws. And so we would recommend that we make them effective January 5th of 2026. That puts it the first Monday in January, which is after the 90-day window. So, but are there any questions? I know I threw a whole bunch of stuff at you last time, and then I sent you 200 pages of wonderful reading to go over and analytics and whatnot. But is there anything you'd like me to review or talk about? Our consultant will be here for the regular meeting in case you have questions for him or if the public has questions that I can't answer. So any questions or concerns, I'm happy to jump into the story map again. We can look at that, whatever you'd like. So if you want me to review all 200 pages, Clint, I'm ready to start.
You've got an hour.
I got 2 other items.
2 more items,
But
yeah.
but I can promise those other 2 items aren't gonna take an hour either, so.
Yeah,
I just would say, if it's okay, Mayor.
yes.
Just, this is great work. The analysis, you start with the plan, you're down on what the roads look like and the infrastructure that's needed, and the analysis of, okay, if we're kind of do this and do this, it can't cost this much, and that's just fascinating and great work. I know there's a consultant working on lots of it, but also the staff and understanding it and helping them out, and just, how often do we do this?
We try to do it every 5 to 7 years.
Yeah,
It's a ton of work.
A lot of work, so I just appreciate the work and the vision of this. It's gonna be good, so.
Thank you.
No pun intended, but it's a good roadmap going
It's a great
forward.
roadmap.
I mean, it really is. It
Oh,
helps
yeah,
us
absolutely.
kind of explain why we're working on this road and not that road.
Yeah, just echoing that, after our discussion 2 weeks ago, it was just, as I'm driving around, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it makes sense. That's why we do this. It's, yeah, good information. Helpful.
This would be on the website, right? I mean, I know we had access to the one to kind of go in and look at different areas and whatnot, but is this something that the public would have?
Yeah, once if this gets adopted, it will go on the website. We plan to have the story map available as well, so I believe we stick it in the engineering website as well as planning has another link to it as well. So this is one of the few master plans we do post publicly. The other ones have security stuff in them, so we don't.
On the website, it'll be fully interactive, like.
This story map will be
That's the story map.
the map that will get put out there, plus the PDF of the copies of the plan as well.
Any real questions on this then for now? I mean, like you said, you'll go over it more in depth in the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll plan on giving a similar presentation, maybe not quite as in depth, but it'll be a lot longer than what this one was just now, so.
I don't want to quote derail us, but.
Pardon?
You were just on it today.
Yeah, but I've been getting a lot of complaints on the Gentile crossing. And I don't know if it's because I'm right there, but the other day typically I try to stay to the right when I cross, but I got and I was on the inside and oh my gosh, it was like.
The railroad crossing. in
The railroad
Gentile.
crossing, so we need you to try to kind of
Okay, we
see if you
look
can
into
address that for us, because I know that it hasn't even been that long since they've worked on it. But it's really bad again. And I'll be happy to do a video showing how rough it is. Because it is wicked.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Parkway's really smooth.
Hey,
For the railroad tracks.
yeah, the Parkway is, and actually King Street is very nice since they worked on that, but that Gentile one is just
Yeah, we'll
rocky.
take a look at it and see if there's some pavement we need to take care of or something else there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go on to item number 4, which Mr. Jackson had, and actually you're on deck on
Yeah, I've got
the whole work meeting tonight.
unfortunately, for you guys, you get to listen to me the rest of the time here, so.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna jump over to this other slide deck here. So, if you recall, we've got 2 projects out, 3200 West Hillfield Road. The transportation reimbursement money that the COG has been gracious to provide us. One is for 3200 West and West Hillfield Road. We've talked about this, working with property owners. We entered into that agreement in Sorry, let me get my papers here. So we entered into that agreement and had it approved in January of 2023. They've given us $880,000 to assist in this project. Due to some of the delays on it, we won't be able to finish by the contract date. Well, the contract date actually already passed back in January, but the COG has graciously allowed us to extend that date to June 30th of 2027. So they're giving us an extension of time. We still anticipate being able to complete this in that time frame, but that really is all that's changing in this amendment, is just an extension of time to be able to complete the work by 2027. So we're still working through some details with those property owners, as we've discussed in other meetings, and we'll bring that back to you once we can get all that kind of wrapped up and finished up with the information there. So any questions on that?
Is there a deadline on their funding, like there is with others?
So the deadline to finish this work was actually January of this year, and they've allowed us to extend that to June 30th of 2027. So that's why we're trying to get this finished up bid, and then we can build all of next year and have it all done in time. So, does that make sense?
This ties
Yeah.
in with our discussion
Yeah.
around the school, the
Yeah.
sidewalks.
I was just wondering, I just was thinking about like the federal monies that sometimes we get where it's
No.
like, if you don't use it by this date, you don't have access to it anymore, but this is what they
This
have.
is the third quarter
So they can
transportation
offer
tax
us
that
the
is the county's
extension.
money, so if they can't authorize that extension for us
Yeah,
without.
that's what I was saying. And
Yeah.
then did we ask for it to be June 2027, or did they just offer that?
They've offered that. They
Okay.
asked us when we thought we could realistically be done, and we said, yeah, we think we can be finished next year, but they've extended it to June of the following year, so that it gives us a little bit of buffer if we need it.
Okay. Thank you. I was just
Yeah.
looking at the date on boundary study when we first looked at it, and that
Yeah.
was 2021, October, so.
Yeah.
So you can
Takes time.
thank all the other mayors, because I could sit on that committee, but thank all the
Yeah,
others.
exactly. It takes time, we know.
Yeah.
And we've told residents that too, right? Like,
Mhm.
we see the concerns and we know what we need to do, but then we have to, get the funding and all of the things, and it takes time, but thanks.
Yeah, thanks for staying on top of it.
So if I can, I'll jump to the
Mhm.
next one as well. It's very similar. So this one, we actually received funding a year later on the West Hill Field portion, this area in the green. So obviously, we finished West Hill Field to the east, and then 2700 West is now constructed. The COG awarded us $3.12 million for that portion of the roadway. And so the amendment on this item is going to be to allow that same June 30th of 2027 construction to be completed. Talking with the county, they actually think it would be a good idea. We kind of floated the idea of bidding these projects together so that they could be one contractor. It could be kind of a cohesive build, and everything would be finished. And so they like that idea. We think there's potential to save a lot of money for both us and the county, but again, it's just an extension of time to be able to complete the work and have everything done once we can get the property acquisition settled and get this thing bid. So realistically, we're hoping to bid this either late November, early December for an early spring construction if we can finalize a couple of little documents and things like that, so.
So is it looking positive on settling some of those?
Yeah, I think so.
situations?
Clint and I met with the property owner we discussed last time. We've got he came back with kind of a suggestion for us, and so we've been looking into that detail. We just need to call him back and have a little bit more conversation with him on his request, so.
Is that the only one, or is there another property owner?
We have one over here on this project that needs to get
Yeah.
taken care of as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for your dedication there and trying to get it settled.
Yeah, we're excited to get it done. I think it'll be a great improvement for the area and especially for the schools in that area to have all this work completed and ready to go. So, any other questions on those items that we can answer for you?
3,200, could that be when schools aren't in session? A lot of the,
Yeah.
I mean, that's-
So what we discussed with this property owner in our meeting, if I could, Clint,
Yeah.
we'll just discuss that for a second, is there is that pipeline there we talked about. We would need to finish any of that work before April 1st. But we would probably require the contractor not to work on the side of Hillfield Road or anywhere near this intersection until after school gets out. And we would hope to push them away from that area until school's out, and then they would need to kind of get that all buttoned up before school started again, so that would be the goal.
Thanks.
Yeah.
During the growing season. But-
Lots of
As long as
moving
the water's
parts.
flowing.
Yeah,
We
I was
can-
gonna say, if they get their water, we're okay.
Yeah, that's the goal. We
Yeah.
get the water going, then it wouldn't affect them at all during the whole summer, and then we could just get them access onto the road and when they needed it for any agricultural uses. But we also, I mean, this, I'll just say, this place is crazy during school times, and so we don't want to put construction out there if we can avoid it. And there's plenty of other places on this road and up here that we could work that wouldn't need to have the contractor there, so. Okay.
Wow. Any other questions there?
We did have one other item we wanted to present,
Okay.
this is kind of an update.
Go ahead.
Steve and Mindy came to talk to me today, and that has to do with the 2150 North
Oh, yes.
issue.
Yes,
We've got
thank
some
you.
data back on that, and
Mhm.
we've had some residents reach out and want that data. So as we talked today, we felt like with what looked like maybe a light agenda, this would be an opportunity to present that information to you so you were aware of it. And then we'll follow up with, respond to the residents and share that information for them. But we'd like to forward for you to see the results of the surveys, electronic surveys and data that's been done. So that's okay, we'd like to share that with you.
No, this is
Any
good.
questions?
It's, yeah, I was gonna say,
Timely.
yeah, I know Mrs. Smith has reached out to me again
Yeah.
on Monday.
Yeah, so if I could, the mayor brought this up, and I think Bettina, maybe you had attended a meeting on this, so residents are concerned that there's traffic and parking over here from these businesses over on the kind of east side closer to Fort Lane from 2150, and that there's trucks and people using 50 West. So this is the area we're going to talk about, is this road here, just so you're kind of familiar. It's directly east of Northridge High, and then the whole subdivision. They have this access on 50 West or on 2150 North to be able to come in and go out. So Mindy did some great work. She went and put some traffic counters out on, I'm going to get these over onto the right side of the screen here. So Mindy put a counter on 2150 North, kind of in this area, and then she also put a counter down here on 50 West so that we had kind of data from both roads. Anyway, so she conducted the information there. One of the things we look at is the volumes on the road. On 2150 North, there was 970 vehicles average daily on that roadway. The 85th percentile speed is 28 miles an hour. On 50 West, there was nearly double the amount of cars, 1,700, almost 1,800 cars at the same roughly 85th percentile speed. Very, very typical for roads of this nature. These are wider roads because they are collector roads for this area. And then we analyzed that data. The counters were able to classify vehicles by length when they go past them. So again, I want to reiterate, this isn't humans out here counting. We have machines, we put them out, and they don't care who you are or what you're driving. They just count, and they, track how big your car is and when it comes by and what time in 15-minute increments, things like that. So so you can see most passenger vehicles are anywhere from 10 to 20 feet long. You're going to have a few buses that are in the 20 to 60 feet long. You've got some smaller trucks in that 20 to 30 and 30 to 40 feet. And then you've got your semis that are 50 plus. So that's just kind of to give you an idea of what kind of vehicle counts are coming out of there.
So the vans that we got complaints on, would they be considered the minibus shuttle, or what would they be considered?
They would probably fall into either this medium single-unit truck or the large single-unit truck. It can't tell us whether it's a truck or a van,
Right,
but
I
it
know,
just
but
says
I'm
it's,
just
the 20 to
kinda
30
curious
feet
what-
or the 30 to 40, depending on, there are different kind of size vans. Is that fair to say, Mindy? And put her on the spot here, but, so as we looked at it, we recorded it. Nearly all of the vehicles fall within this 10 to 30 foot length. Very small number exceeded anything bigger than that. So on 2150 East, the passenger vehicle count is 4,428, so it's 98% of the vehicles on 2150 East are passenger vehicle size. The medium trucks for that 26 to 50 foot it was 94 of them in the count, so they're split 2%. And then larger trucks was only 2, so it's less than 0.1%.
Can you go back up to the,
Yeah.
so you've got passenger vehicles and single unit trucks included together in your count below. And so this first truck row is, the 25 feet is within that.
Yeah.
And so those passenger vehicles and single unit trucks, that's not broken out, so.
Yeah,
I know
'cause
you
we-
have the data maybe? how-
Well, we can't break out whether it's a passenger vehicle or a truck, we just know that it's either 25 feet or less. Does that make sense? And so,
Okay.
so that's where we're saying vehicles of 25 feet and less, there's 98% of those coming through.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the vehicles that are between the 20 and 25, because those are the ones that are bigger, but not humongous, but still like not your normal, like, I'm driving them around type of thing. Just
Yeah.
based off of the table, so that,
Yeah, and our counters don't, I don't know that they go down to the single foot, is that correct, Mindy? I think
They're
they
not
break them
five.
into 5-foot increments, and so.
Does it measure by axles or just overall length?
It's radar based, and so it
Okay.
just measures overall
So
length.
a
yeah.
pickup pulling a utility
Yes.
trailer.
Yeah,
that's
that
going to a
would
home.
actually set it off as a bigger vehicle. Yeah, so if you, like a truck pulling a fifth wheel even would show up as one of these larger trucks. So on 50 West, very similar. The numbers are slightly different because there's more vehicles on the road. But the 98% are less than that, 30 feet, and then 2% are the 30 plus. And so what we're seeing is there's a lot of Amazon drivers, there's a lot of FedEx drivers, there's a lot of UPS, there's a lot of delivery trucks that fall in that 25 to 30 foot range, 20 to 30 foot range that we think are the majority of the bigger vehicle traffic that's coming in and out of here. And then we are seeing a few larger trucks that come in, but they're not on a consistent, basis that we're seeing any real differences than any other subdivision that we have in the city where people are receiving deliveries of furniture or packages or anything else that's going on. So the vast majority of the vehicles are these passenger vehicles, and so, but there is the kind of breakdown if you wanted to see the west lane, east lane, and then the average per day for these numbers as you're going forward. So anyway, so what we did find out there was on the road near the business park, there are, I guess it's not a business park, it's just kind of a more commercial industrial area. There are vehicles parking along this roadway. We're not seeing evidence as we've driven around as staff. There's been quite a few staff members that have gone out. I personally have driven through here probably 8 or 10 times as I've just been out and about doing things to see what's going on. But others have done it as well. What we're seeing is that the vast majority of the parking is along the frontage here of the businesses. There are a couple of people who choose to park fairly close to the edge of this, but the majority are in the front of the businesses, and we aren't seeing the spillage into the neighborhood that has been kind of indicated to us. But what we did see is that there are some places along the roadway where vehicles are parking in front of fire hydrants or too close to fire hydrants and mailboxes and the entryways to be able to have safe, clear views. So the recommendation that we have is that we come in here and we paint 15-foot red curb adjacent to the curb drive approaches so that there's adequate clear view on the road for people to see as they're coming in and out of these entrances here. But also, if there is a larger truck that comes in on the road, that they have adequate turning radii to be able to come into the entrance there. Tyson would probably appreciate that if we didn't have people parking in the drive approaches. So 20 foot in front of the fire hydrants. We don't have to paint every hydrant in the city, but sometimes when we have people using the road like this, we go out and we paint the hydrants just to remind them not to block them for safety reasons. And then there's a couple mailboxes out here that are pretty close to the drive approaches that need to be clear for our mail people to be able to deliver the mail. So That's our recommendation on this, is to do that. We plan to reach back out to the residents. There's a couple of residents Mindy's been talking to, and we're planning to meet with them and have a conversation about the findings and the data and what we see here, so.
So, obviously, the home right there on the corner, that's the one that has the biggest problem with the parking, as far as getting in and out of her driveway, which happens to be on the 2150.
Mhm.
And you do have a red curb there. Can you expand that at all?
Not, what we've witnessed out there, to be honest, Mayor, is that nobody has actually parked beyond the edge of this property line. And our standard is the 15 feet, because that's all the required, clear view for this road and the speeds, so, you know,
So if she has somebody that does park, well, technically they shouldn't anyway, because they're close to a curb.
Yeah,
But-
nobody should be parking in this area right here, and we aren't seeing that happening, and so we're trying not to just go out and paint every spot on the curb.
Right,
But
yeah.
if
But I
there
know
was
that-
some kind of a safety issue right there because people decided to park there, but we don't feel like even these parking stalls will, there's enough space in between these that the car that tries to park right at that curb just needs to move forward 5 feet, and then everybody
Okay.
else can just stack in it. And I don't believe we're gonna have people spilling over here because there's no parking anymore, because there's plenty of gaps in between where we're intending to do it. We're just trying to remind people, hey, this is, you know,
I think
Leave it
the
open.
issue, I think the biggest issue was that there were certain days when like the employer had meetings and everybody that is employed by them was there. And so that's when they were parking, like all of that yellow was filled, and even these other parts of the curb that shouldn't be, because they were having staff meetings on certain days. Like everybody doesn't work in the office at the same time. And so I guess, I think this is good, right? But I think my question may be more for Weston with regard to the employer, and if there were discussions that have been had on that front as well, because this is what we can do as far as the road. That makes sense to me, but it seemed like it was more practices of the employer. And when the employer brings everybody on site, they don't have enough parking for everybody to be on site. And it sounded like initially the residents spoke with the employer, at least the one in particular, and I think we got emails too, that the employer said, oh yeah, I'm gonna take care of it, you know, sorry, we're not gonna have all of these meetings or whatnot, but then it sounded as though maybe that never happened. So I think that's probably the second piece to this that I think we'd like some information on. Just, you know, the practices of the employer and having their employees that are now parking in other spaces that are not owned by them.
Yeah, I talked to the owner of ES Solar, and he stated that they did used to have weekly meetings, and they've moved that back to a monthly meeting. So they still do have a meeting where there are more people coming. But in addition to that, they have also notified that they should not be parking in the residential areas. They've basically created a little map for their people that says, you know, first park in the business side, you know, the off-street parking, and then on-street, and here's generally where. I would just note that, and if you could circle it, Steve, that one little area of residential that you might find some vehicles.
yeah, right
Just
here
right
is
there.
the only spot we've seen car parked, and it's been maybe 1 or 2 at the most as we've been driving through.
And what was our date range? I saw September 19th, but I just didn't know for the vehicle counts how long that was done. Was it a week or two?
Yeah, we try and usually just do a week.
Okay.
Can you also speak to the fact that,
Was that week during this meeting time? Was this week when they had their meeting?
I'm not aware of when their meetings are being held or when they're not.
And independent of the meetings, as Steve said, independent of the date of the counts, multiple staff have been up there just at random occasions, and they have not seen anything, correct me if I mistake this, they have not seen anything contrary to what the counter suggesting. So I think my recollection was the owner may have had a different perspective than what was being represented from some of the residents about the overspill into the neighborhoods. And that's what we've seen, is that may not have been happening at any point in time to the extent that it's being suggested. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do the count. So it wasn't opinion-based, or, you know, in either side, there wasn't a bias, it was just the numbers are the numbers. But you seem to be, the owners, what he talks to, seem to be sensitive to the issue.
Yes,
and
very.
wanted to be a good neighbor, and was going to make sure that his employees understood that there's no reason at all that our neighbors, and we want to be a good neighbor back, and everything.
Okay. Can you speak though to the delivery trucks as well? Because that was the other thing in this area, and I think you guys
So,
talked to the owners about that as well, right?
yeah, so we have talked to the owners of ES Solar, and I don't want to speak over
You're okay.
Weston, but what we have been told is that part of the reason that there was a perception that the semi-trucks or any delivery truck was blocking this area was because the vehicle that came down the road, whether it was from the east or the west, we don't know, but the vehicles that were parking too close to these curb returns were making it so a semi-truck couldn't make that turn. And so they were stopping, and then they had to go try and find somebody to, move their vehicle, and it was just kind of a mess. And so that was what we observed here, is that routinely at some of these entrances, people were parking, and we understand, it just happens. People think they're far enough away, but really, a little bit of red paint to remind them, hey, stay back, will give them the area they need. And so we don't feel like the trucks being able to get in and out has been a huge hindrance on the roadway. There's always been 50 West to be able to go out if you're in the subdivision, and so if you saw a truck there and it happened to be stopped or something, we certainly don't love to have that happen, but there is the other exit out to the west that they can use, and we think that by painting these curbs red, it will help keep that open for any vehicle that does need to have a larger turning radius come in and out.
And didn't you say there's enough room for them to go around the building now? Or there is, or they should be?
Yeah, absolutely, there is.
Because that's one thing that I think
Yeah,
is-
there's room to run around all of the buildings. There's a truck dock back here that they can pull into and back up into and then come back out. So yeah, there's plenty of room there. To our knowledge, the discussion we had was not that anybody was delivering stuff in the middle of the road. It was that they had to stop because they had to move a vehicle so that they
Okay.
didn't damage the vehicles that were parked too close to the entrances.
I'd imagine some residents, if they're going to Antelope, if they're going east, a lot of them would probably prefer to go to North Lane, to Fort Lane, just because it's a lighted intersection.
Because of the light,
Turning left, or turning east, rather than turning onto Antelope. But-
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can see a frustration if there is a
Yeah.
slowdown of something,
Yeah.
but it doesn't sound like it's a big.
We're not seeing
Complex.
it, and, that doesn't mean that it hasn't occasionally happened, but we also, have to look at things. This is 36 feet of pavement, so it is quite a bit wider than a normal street. This was built back before we even narrowed up our roadway cross-sections from what they were to what they are today, and so there's plenty of room to have parking on both sides of the road and have two travel lanes without impeding the traffic on the road. So, and to be honest, one of the things that having parking on this road does is actually slows people down so that they don't come down this road even faster than, what is happening now. So.
Clint, did you still have a question?
Yeah, a comment maybe, just I thought this issue was handled the right way. The resident that talked to the business, city wasn't part of this. 3 or 4 years ago, the same thing happened. And Chad actually went and talked with them, and it seemed to have gone away. But the negotiation of the resident, with them having the weekly meeting to now only having a monthly meeting, that was them being good neighbors. we want good neighbors, we want everyone to be good neighbors, we want good businesses. And so I don't want, I personally don't want a resident versus business sort of thing, or us have to take sides, and just let's all get along. And I think that's how they approached it. And the business didn't dig their feet in and say, dig their heels and say, well, this is public roads, we're okay, you can leave us alone. What are you gonna do? That didn't happen either. So so this, what you're talking about here, painting the lines or the curbs and making it easier for the trucks and the parking, all that you just talked about is great, is something that, what can we do? We can do that, to your point, we can do that. And I appreciate the data, because that's the data's the data, as Alex mentioned, and so thank you for that work and making it more of a data-based. Yeah, we're not, the narrative has kind of moved to, this whole place is a business park and there's trucks all the time and things, narratives move. But in this case, it doesn't seem like that's happening, and we're doing something, and I think everyone's just continue to be good neighbors. And that's, yeah, I think we're doing what we can do. So thank you.
I would just acknowledge that it also could be that the discussions have worked, you know. I mean, and so to characterize we're not seeing it, so it's not happening, is not necessarily the characterization, right? It would be more that we're not seeing it, but this is also like September, and they've been seeing it for months. And so if things have happened and that's slowed down, like, you know, from weekly to a monthly meeting now, and the business owner is talking to his employees and saying, hey, you know, this, like what you said, Weston, about him having a map and saying, this is where I want, this is where we can park. To me, those, again, to Clint's point, those are the metrics, or not metrics, but those are the steps we want to see. And maybe what we're seeing now is a result of those types of things. I do think that people like a story and they want a story to be something, but seeing this information helps to be able to say, well, this is what has been done, this is what's happening, and, you know, things are moving and things are looking good. So yeah, I appreciate all of the work, but also the collaboration.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the one business we talk about tonight is not the only one up here.
Right.
He doesn't have any control over all the other businesses in this area either, but I think all of them are trying to be decent neighbors and not cause problems.
I was going to mention that also, if that's okay, Mayor, you come out onto Fort Lane and you head right. So if you're already thinking this place is a business, we're just being overtaken by business park, and you come out and you go toward Antelope, and all of a sudden you've got the mechanic shop on the one side, and you've got big truck. Like, how do we? I don't know how you get around that, but I don't know if the auto shop, if they're where they're parking, what they're doing, if that's all within code. I don't know, but that might be another thing where
We're looking into that.
Okay,
as well.
that's
Yeah, we're having
okay.
some
Good.
more-
That's just
Yeah.
because it goes down to one lane sometimes
Yeah.
there,
Yeah,
just
there
because of the
issues
traffic
now.
or the parked car. Okay, all right.
Have they taken advantage of what we do, we did an amendment to their plat in the last year? Have they
Not yet.
done any?
Yeah, it was supposed to be for
expansion?
additional parking.
Right.
Hmm.
There were a couple of other, what is the word? Ideas about what may be going on with some of those other businesses. Not sure, Weston, if you had a chance to reach out about any of those, like perhaps folks.
How they're operating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like maybe folks staying overnight for things and.
I've not heard about anybody else staying over. I mean, definitely there's the business across on the other side. They definitely park on the street as well. And I've heard semis delivering in the roadway, but we've not been able to confirm that. But I haven't, yeah.
So the business I think closest to the neighborhood, there was some suggestion on the backside of that, there were places that were being occupied.
Oh.
at the evening.
Yeah, we could look at
Yeah.
that.
But
Well, and in addition to that, I think the other thing that they raised is, are these businesses overemploying based upon the amount of space that they have? Because in their opinion, it seems like there's way too many employees for the amount of space and allow the parking. So I think that those are a few more things that,
Yeah, we've looked
that
at.
we were curious about as well.
We've looked at that, Weston has looked at that, and they were all meeting what they were approved to meet.
Okay.
So I think you can say it better than I can, as we talked about that, and there's capacity in the roadway, there's capacity on the site, and the city doesn't typically, when a business comes in, if they're functioning well, we don't typically go check on a regular basis, say you were approved for 50, you've got 52, or that kind of a thing. Those ebb and flow depending on the type of business that are in, but they stay within a range, a reasonable range that's predicted for the area. And as we talked about it, or at least the way the staff has looked at it, is that if there's capacity in the roadway and it's not creating a safety issue or overloading the road, then those ebbs and flows should be able to just happen. If they're not, if those flows are causing safety issues or overtaxing the road, then that's a whole different story where the city would want to act. It may be seasonal, it may be the type of operation that one business has versus the other. But is that, again, you
Yeah.
look at it in more detail. But
Yeah, that's fair, and I would say that, and we do this in all parking aspects when we pull into use and we review the business license. The parking doesn't account for every single person that we think is gonna be at that site at every given time, right?
Right.
We make sure that there is some balance, and so you may capture 75% of the people at that parking lot, and so obviously that's going to flow somewhere. When this one was reviewed, there is a shared parking agreement between those three buildings, and so when we look at, it's easy to look at ES Solar and say they don't have enough parking at all for what they're doing. Well, their parking is stretched out between those three buildings. They're also taking up 2 of those units in those 2 other buildings. And so it's definitely a broad look at it. But they met the parking code when they were reviewed a business license and site plan.
Okay. Anything else?
About this or
Yeah.
anything else?
Well, if you have anything on this topic,
So our intention again is to be responsive to the requests from a couple of the residents who will share the information and make the copy of the document available and go through it and explain what and respond to their questions. But like I said, we wanted to make sure that if there was an opportunity to make sure you understood the data, you may get contacted. We want you to be aware of that. But,
well, thank you guys for presenting all the information and bringing back the response to the citizens' request. Was there any other ones you wanted to bring up?
I did have one citizen reminder, I guess it was just a question. And I know this has been a while that we talked about the Cedarwood mobile home situation, but apparently there's still, I don't remember how many, but there's still a number of mobile homes over there. And I know, like what you just said, Alex, we're not just driving around checking on businesses and, folks, we're not just doing that. But apparently there's some, I don't want to say dilapidation, because I haven't been able to get over there yet, but it's been expressed that a lot of the area has kind of been let go. Garbage cans removed and replaced with like big dumpsters just in spots, but kind of overrun and whatnot. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to look yet. It's been a busy week. But there are still some residents in there. Many of them have been moved already, but just something to maybe revisit if there's anything that we can talk about or do in that space, since there's still some folks there and the owner is doing what he does.
Has there been any updates as far as the next phase anyway? I mean, where do you sit
we
on
can-
that?
The CD staff has had seen some plans, so you can give an
Okay.
update.
Yeah, they're actually-
Anything prior to this?
Yeah, they're looking to forward, or put forth an application. I actually just had a conversation with them this last week of what specifically they need to submit to start the process. So they're gonna start ready to moving forward on their project shortly.
But you correct me if I mistake this, because it's been
Yeah.
a few months, but my recollection was, at least what some of the representatives on the development side have indicated, is that many of those units that before were privately owned have been acquired by the owner, the park over time. And so the number of people that may be displaced in the first phase that still had ownership of their property is diminished. They worked ahead of time to try to transition those ownership so that they didn't have quite the same issues.
Correct.
Is that
Yep.
fair? And that there's only a few of those that are still under private ownership in anticipation of the development, which is, we felt like that's accurate. It was a positive thing that they went about it maybe in a little bit better way
Than the first time.
yeah, where people being surprised or wondering, that that's what's been represented by the developer. But
I heard that has taken place, but I have also heard that the way in which it took place has probably not been in the most.
I don't know about that, but I know
Yeah.
the history, and
Yeah.
so.
So I would still be interested in kind of revisiting some of that, in, maybe within time frame of whatever they're trying to do before folks are displaced again, because even though ownership has switched hands, the ways in which that has taken place has not necessarily been favorable from what I'm being told. But like I said, I literally just found that out a few days ago and haven't had a chance to kind of dig more into it, but just wanted to bring it up here to see if you all had heard anything or had a chance to kind of check it out.
Maybe good at some point. I think Tom, on the development side, would be happy to come in, and I think that's the vision that's been driving this operation, is on the development side, not the ownership side. And so I think they'd probably be happy to do that and talk about their plans and proposals and what they've done and what they haven't done.
Thanks.
That'd be good. Okay. Anything else we need to discuss?
Maybe on that point, we can say, not to belabor, sorry, but you can, I think you were telling me you can speak to their lease rate, the success of the initial buildings they've got, that has been very favorable. They're
Yes.
well ahead of schedule in terms of their
Oh, no.
lease. It's been a very popular product on the apartments that they've built. There's been significant demand there, so they're excited about and grateful and
Yep.
appreciative of the chance to work with the city. They feel like the city's input over time has been good and made a better product, and they're happy to make it from an economic perspective and a market perspective. They think it's a very good location, and people seem to want to be there. So the hope is it'll translate into the next phase, and talking about a variety of types of uses.
I have to say, I think the overall look and feel of that complex, to me, is very, I appreciate it, I like it. It kind of gives you, like we've tried to project with all of the projects, is kind of a step back,
Yeah.
so that when you're on Main Street, you're not like you are in Clearfield and thinking, oh, there's a lot of buildings here. At least this one really has kind of a nice little, I think it's got a great feel to it. And I love the lettering at the top.
Yeah.
The way they've done that, that's good.
And it really speaks to their development group, that the initial designs for those, especially those two commercial buildings, were different.
Yes.
They were okay. This is much better. It
Mhm.
looks a lot better.
Yeah.
And it was on them to bring it in and say, we want to change it and do something a little bit better, which they did. And I agree, Mayor, I think it looks really nice.
Yeah, I think it's
On
a
that,
more welcoming.
seeing that building go up, and it looks like it's finishing, I was wondering, that trail connection to Gentile, is that part of this first phase, or, where it kind of intersects, it'll have to be up.
Oh, the one
Vertical
behind?
trail, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that part of this first phase, or will that wait for the lighted intersection with Main Street?
You're talking about the connection from the trail to Gentile?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know Joe Owen's working on that.
Northeast side of that.
With UDOT, yeah.
Okay. The developer's not
Yeah,
constructing that?
she's included it, yeah, they're included as
I
well,
thought it
for
was
sure.
part of the development.
Yeah, it was part of the
Yeah.
development, because I
Yeah.
remember, looking at that, going, oh, okay, this is gonna be interesting going up the hill.
Yeah, I
And
was
then
just
they
curious about
adjusted
the
it.
timing on that.
Yeah.
But it is part of phase one.
UDOT controls the connection points and how it comes in and where it
Yeah.
comes in, and the light as well. There's been some confusion a little bit on that, and so the city's been trying to mediate that with both parties. You know, they're being respectful about it, but the timing of that light, and, you know, there's warrants that typically have to be met, and sometimes those warrants are after the impact's already there, and we're trying to
Right.
say, you can see the impact coming, so it's a way to get ahead of that and build the infrastructure so we don't have a problem for a while. I think UDOT's, because of the relationship we have, and there's remnant properties around there, the slopes and so forth, that UDOT owns a bunch of remnant pieces in there, and so they're working with the city to let the city get ownership of those through our relationship with UDOT, and then as need, make them available for development, so there's proper access. You know, for UDOT still gotta maintain their slopes, interchanges and a variety of things, but my point is, everybody is working, the developer especially in UDOT and us are all trying to work cooperatively to say, let's have a really good development here and make sure that everybody's interests are taken care of, and UDOT has access, and Region One's been really good to work with us on.
Yeah.
When you say UDOT, and we know they need to meet certain quotas, is that just vehicle traffic, or do they calculate pedestrian traffic as well?
Both. Yeah, it's the warrant takes into account vehicular traffic, but also pedestrians, and then the usable gaps and other things like that, so.
In that area, probably won't increase pedestrian until the trail overpass is built on the railroad.
And we're working with them. We talked about trip generation and things like that. We actually, they're allowing us to use trip generation projections and things like that to be able to meet warrants and things. So it's been positive discussions. We just need to get a little bit closer to all the underground work on that signal is in, as far as the conduits and things like that, so it won't be, it'll be kind of magic. It'll just kind of pop out of the ground, and it'll be pretty quick kind of a thing,
Christmas
so.
Okay. Okay. That's good, good one, good update. Glad you brought it up. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and enjoy a break in between.
So moved.
Second? Okay, I'll acknowledge that. So the Layton City work meeting is now adjourned, and we'll reconvene at 7 p.m. in All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to our Layton City Council meeting this evening, October 2nd. Our start time is 7 p.m. And as customary, we'd like to start out the meeting with a prayer and a pledge, or a pledge and a prayer, however Ms. Councilmember Smith Edmondson decides to conduct it. We take turns each month, and tonight I'm going to turn the time over to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start with a prayer. So if you'll bow your heads, please. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for an opportunity to come together and to do the business of the city of Layton, Utah. God, we thank you that we are able to work together, we're able to play together, to live together, and to come and convene to make sure that the residents of Layton have all of the things that they need and a lot of the things that they want that help them to make the city home. I ask that you look on all of us, help us to make the decisions that you would want us to make. Look on council members who are away, keep them safe. I ask that you would just lead us and guide us in everything that we do and just keep us safe. We thank you for the first responders that we have, and for all of the folks at the city who work to help us live, our best lives. And we ask that you would just lead us and guide us. Please be with us on tonight and always. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'll ask you to stand and repeat the pledge with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilmember Smith Edmondson, for a beautiful prayer and leading us in the pledge. Tonight, we don't really have any minutes that we need to approve, so we could go on to our municipal announcements for those that might have some. So, Council, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a handful of announcements from the Parks and Rec Department. First of all, thanks to a ramp grant, Surf and Swim has a new wave machine, and I've heard it's producing some pretty big waves, so it's great. Takes me back to my high school days, if that means anything. So go enjoy the new atmosphere at the wave pool. And calendar events, we have a handful of family recreation events coming up. First of all, October 11th will be the Spooky Swim at the Surf and Swim. 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., $3 admission. There'll be some fun Halloween-themed activities, trick-or-treating at the pool. Great for family and friends. So. Also, along the Halloween lines, October 17th will be the Halloween Bash here at the Amphitheater Plaza and Commons Park and Heritage Museum. Lots of different Halloween-themed games, live music, and family fun. Free admission, 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., again, October 17th. And then the next day on Saturday, Whispers in the Dark at the Amphitheater. We will have, I believe that's in conjunction with Davis Arts Council. Lots of great storytelling. That's a full afternoon and evening, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Amphitheater. So bring the family for some great spooky stories. And then in November, spots are filling up fast, but the Turkey Bowl is going to happen at Davis Lanes November 22nd. That's a Saturday. They have open times, a few open slots for each. The last I checked, 1 p.m., 2:30, and 4 p.m. So take your family out up to 6 people per lane, and it's $25 per lane. So good bowling for the whole family. And at 4 p.m., there might be a city council challenging another city council in the area, so it should be fun. Thank you, Mayor.
Defend our position from last year. Okay. All right. Did you have an announcement as well? Okay.
This coming Monday, the Layton Communities That Care and actually the North Davis and South Davis Communities That Care, which cover all of our county, are going to be having a family dinner night. So October 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. It's free for families. It'll be in our Kaysville, so our neighbors to the south, but it'll be at Pioneer Park, and all three of these CTCs are coming together to participate in this. And there are also a couple of prevention events taking place for the rest of that week. All of them are free. And then we do have some classes that are beginning this month. And as I say, every meeting you can go to dbhutah.org to sign up for those. They're free, and they offer childcare as well as dinner for you and your family while you're participating in those courses.
Okay. Thank you very much. One more announcement that on behalf of myself and the entire council, as well as some citizens here in the city, we want to announce our open house for my hometown. We spoke about it and passed an initiative last council meeting, so now we're actually wanting to stand up what is called our resource center. And there will be an open house on October 9th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And the address is 845 North, 1150 East in Layton. So just to give you kind of a quick geographical location, it's in an LDS chapel behind Fresh Markets. So we hope to have everyone come out and really understand what my hometown is about, but more importantly, to understand and work in conjunction with Communities That Cares as far as a good resource place for not only behavioral health, but all kinds of life skills. And that's the importance of this, and it's open to everyone. There are no barriers here. So please come out and support my hometown. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing that there's no more municipal or events announcement, I would like to take a point of a privilege here under verbal presentations. Unfortunately, yesterday we lost one of our longtime residents of Layton, Mr. Ronald Layton. He is a descendant of Christopher Layton, but more importantly than that, he was an employee for Layton City for 34 years as part of our fire department. In addition, 17 and a half of those years, he was the assistant chief. And at that time, it was an all-volunteer force. So I'd like to just kind of take a quick moment and express our appreciation to one of our first responders. Okay, thank you. I'll now move on to our citizens' comment portion of our meeting. Under the citizens' comment, you're welcome to come up to either one of the podiums here and state your name and what city you're from, and you're welcome to kind of address the council on any topic that's not necessarily on the agenda tonight. And we try to hold those comments to 3 minutes, but certainly, we want to kind of make sure you get your information out to us. So at this time, I'll see if anybody's interested in addressing us.
My name is Jennifer Bazzano. I'm from here in Layton. I'm back because this doesn't seem to be making an agenda in this group of people. So first of all, I again thank you for the service you give to the city. I realize it's a thankless job at times, and you hear more from the complainers than the supporters. So I do support 95% of what Layton City does, and I'm thankful to live here. However, I will say we've been fighting for 2 years now for a dog park. Layton is the biggest city in Davis County. One of the biggest advocates for multifamily housing, right? We've got high-density housing coming in faster than we can see it, especially over here where I live off the Parkway. Apartments on apartments on apartments on townhouses. You're approving them as fast as you can. I'm an advocate for people needing a place to live. I've lived in many high-density housing. I've lived in many cities in all over the U.S., but never have I lived in a city of this size with this much housing that has not had a dog park. It's crazy to me. The benefits for a dog park are above and beyond people that have a dog. The calls to animal control drop by, 60, 70%. I have that statistic. I can bring it next month. Less barking. There's less problems. There's less dog poop to pick up. Dog owners need some place to take their dogs to socialize, to meet other dog owners. I think it's irresponsible for Layton City to be pushing this out on every other city. Like, that's crazy. Them telling us, well, there's one 20 minutes away in Bountiful. Okay, but Bountiful's dog park is struggling because Layton City, Kaysville City, Farmington City is telling their citizens, go someplace else. Let somebody else's city handle it. That's so irresponsible. The last thing is, somebody mentioned last time we talked about this, that it might deter if we did a trail system, which seems to be very popular and works well in Wasatch County. It's worked great in Summit County. It works great in Salt Lake County. Salt Lake County has tons of trail systems that you can be off leash. Somebody mentioned, well, that might deter other people from coming there. Okay, but these other people have 1,000 places they can go in the city with no dogs off leash. Dogs have nothing. I think we're doing a disservice to a very large portion of Layton's citizens by not putting this on the agenda and actually trying to find a solution. So again, I do thank you for your service. I know it's not an easy job.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Hello, my name is James Linton. I have been a resident of Layton for a little over 5 years now. I have 5 homeschooled children, so they range between the ages of 13 and 5. With my children being homeschooled, one of the primary ways that they develop friendships in the community is youth sports. So because of that, I volunteer in the community coaching various sports. I've coached baseball, basketball, and soccer. About a year and a half ago, my 9-year-old daughter emerged as a very talented little soccer player. I had coached all my kids in rec league, but it became clear that Zoe should probably pursue competitive soccer. The tryouts were so well attended that the club president, who found out I coached, I don't know how he did, but he asked if I would start another team. I knew nothing about comp soccer. So I knew nothing about the licensing I would need. I started racking up costs to get myself licensed. I started reffing rec league games to find girls to add to our team. Our first tournament, we didn't cross the half line. And we've done some realignment. We've combined some girls from teams. And like this last summer, we won a tournament. We placed second in another. We're easily one of the top 10 2016 girls teams in Davis County. And I wanted to share this to make clear the type of journey that many of the coaches in this city are on. One of the amazing gifts to me in this journey was finding the Layton Strikers. So the Layton Strikers are among the least expensive competitive soccer clubs. Part of the reason that they're less expensive is they're filled with people like me, people that know nothing about competitive soccer until they get started, and you'd be crazy to pay me to pay your kid, to like teach your kids to play soccer, right? And it's not because this isn't the case. This isn't how it is for many soccer clubs in Layton. There are many clubs who pay their coaches. Many of the clubs have their own parks, their own indoor facilities for practice. And because of this, club fees are 3 to 5 times higher for these clubs than for our club. About a year ago, I got a message from both AYSO, I was coaching a team, and from the Layton Strikers that I wasn't allowed to practice at Woodward Park next door to my house anymore. A private football club had paid for exclusive use of the field. We moved to schools, but then several coaches started getting notices at the local schools that they had to pay for the use of the field or they couldn't practice there. Just a week ago, my soccer scrimmage was ended by the police in Syracuse because we were playing soccer in an unmarked, unused portion of a public park field. Apparently, a for-profit football club had rented the entire park. I wanted to ask you all to consider what auctioning off all the grass in the city means to volunteer-run organizations like the Strikers. We're not allowed in the schools or parks without paying. In the meantime, our property taxes maintain the very fields that are letting private for-profit organizations have exclusive use for a fee. This puts volunteer-run organizations at a severe disadvantage. I gain nothing monetarily by running a practice, and because we're auctioning off the grass, I'm running out of places to do it. So, what sounds like a good idea to raise some money for the schools or the city has a significant cost. Organizations like the one I coach will have to raise their fees so that they can rent practice space. Within a few years, comp soccer won't be available to people without a six-figure income, and I think that would be a great loss. So I'm not asking the city to organize a schedule or anything, God forbid it. I'm asking the city and the school district to let a good portion of the fields remain first come, first serve, like they always have been, so that people like me who get nothing out of it, do it because we love the kids, can find a place to kick a soccer ball around that we don't have to pay for, so that we can continue to offer something like competitive soccer for kids at a more reasonable price. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, seeing that there is none, I'd like to go ahead and move on then to our consent items tonight. Now, typically on this, even though we have 5 items on the agenda here, this council can act in one governing motion to take action on all of those items at once. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and start out with item number A, which is a public comment reading of the RAMP, Recreation Arts Museum and Park tax reauthorization, and Ms. Kimberly Zagmont is going to present this item to us.
Good evening. So in 2015, Layton City voters approved a local sales and use tax to support RAMP initiatives. For the last 10 years, this RAMP tax has provided 0.1% sales and use tax paid by residents and non-residents alike who shop in Layton to support recreation, arts, museums, and parks in Layton. 1 penny on each $10 sold in Layton has provided over $17 million in revenues over the last 10 years, used solely to improve recreation, arts, museum, and parks for the benefit of our residents. This 10 years authorization is set to expire. In accordance with Utah Code, the city would like to submit an opinion question to voters to authorize the continuation of the local sales and use tax of 0.1%. This voter approval or reauthorization will not raise residents' tax rates. Layton City Mayor and City Council support placing an opinion question on the ballot. And as a part of this process, the public is invited to comment regarding the RAMP tax reauthorization, giving an opportunity for both sides of the question to express their opinion. Before opening the floor, I'd like to remind how RAMP has helped shape Layton through our parks by bringing more recreation, arts, and heritage to our community. Tonight we'll be sharing an overview of the last 10 years from 2016 to 2025, a decade of progress made possible through RAMP. So here's a quick overview of the allocated funding of each year since 2016. We'll be breaking down this information further in upcoming slides, but we wanted to share this overview with you first. In the past 10 years, we've allocated over $17 million to 278 grants. You'll notice that funding levels can vary from year to year, which is dependent upon the amount of sales tax collected in Layton and the number of grants and requested funding each year. This slide breaks things down by category, showing how much total funding was awarded to each area of the RAMP over the last 10 years. I'd like to note that rather than sorting by organization, we categorized each grant based on the project's purpose and how it would be used. For example, while Parks applied for a grant to install a sculpture in Commons Park, what we know as our beloved ducks, because it's a piece of public art, that funding is categorized under art. As you can see, Parks received the largest share of funding overall. That's not surprising when you consider the cost of building public spaces like trails, playgrounds, courts, and other parks amenities. These investments are high impact and highly visible. But you'll also see a strong support for arts and recreation. And that speaks to the community values of creativity, connection, and opportunities to play. And then finally, our museum category reflects how RAMP helps preserve and share Layton's history through exhibits and events. The year-by-year graph gives a quick visual of how category funding levels shifted over time. You'll notice an ebb and flow in larger investments in different categories, which allows RAMP funds to respond to both immediate needs and long-term goals. Altogether, this slide gives us a high-level snapshot of how RAMP funding has been distributed across the areas that enrich daily life in Layton. This shares the same information, but in terms of the number of grants awarded in each category. So one of the takeaways here is just how broad and accessible the arts programs have been. With 113 grants, it shows that even small-scale organization and projects have been able to benefit from RAMP. On the other hand, parks facilities tend to receive fewer but much larger grants due to the size and cost of those capital projects. They may come with a higher price tag, but they serve tens of thousands of people each year and last for decades. Together, this balance shows that RAMP isn't just about big builds or one-time events. It's about investing across the board to serve all areas of our community. RAMP funding can be spent on city-owned facilities, either new facilities or improvements on existing facilities and programs. This shows a breakdown of all that. As you can see, a significant portion of the funding has gone to facilities, particularly in parks, which are those long-term assets that benefit the public every single day. But programs haven't been overlooked. As discussed in the previous slide, arts programs alone receive over 100 grants, which is more than any other category, and helps to bring live music, theater, and films to Layton. So while facilities give us physical spaces to gather, programs are what fill those spaces with energy and connection, and RAMP funding helps us do both. And so we looked at the numbers, how RAMP funds were distributed, what categories they supported, and how these investments were balanced between facilities and programs. But sometimes the best way to understand the impact is to see it. These next few slides are visual highlights of the last 10 years. Each collage represents a different RAMP category and showcases some of the incredible projects that have come to life through Layton. Whether it's a community concert, a new trail, a new museum exhibit, or public art, each image is a reflection of what RAMP makes possible. These are the places we enjoy, the moments we share, and the memories we create thanks to the community-supported funding. For a full list of the RAMP projects, we'll just be going over some highlights, but for a full list, we do have a RAMP webpage on the Layton City website that has a whole list. It's great. So in the last 10 years, $4.5 million have gone to 33 grants to improve our recreation facilities. Everything from our baseball and softball diamonds, soccer goals, our shoreline gymnasium, our track and fitness, surf and swim, including our new wave machine that really is very awesome. On our programs, over $300,000 has been invested to our programs. Same thing with baseball and softball equipment, tackle football equipment. We're safer with our AEDs, our basketball programs, Layton Fest, our electric light parade, and even Liberty Days. Our arts facilities have been improved with RAMP funding. Our Ed Kenley Amphitheater and Plaza, over $1.2 million has been funded to help improve that, as well as different art sculptures, our Arts in the Park programs, the LED screen at the Ed Kenley Amphitheater. And our arts programs have received over $1 million with those 113 grants. We see everything from community theater, Broadway stars, art competitions, rock music, classical music, folk music, fun music, film festivals, all the fun arts programs. 40 grants have gone to the museum, which includes facilities like the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall replica, the War Dog statue, different display cases, and we have really important ongoing projects like our oral history reports and archival and collections digitization. And our parks facilities, our pickleball courts, shade structures, pedestrian lighting, our holiday lights display, the beautiful round pavilion out in Commons Park, and a lot of different playgrounds. Everyone loves our Rocket Park out in Chapel Park. So as we wrap it up, I just want to say this past decade of RAMP has been more than about numbers or projects. It's been about building a better Layton together. These successes are only possible because of the support of our City Council and our partnering organizations and arts organizations. And to the residents who voted to invest in our community. On behalf of everyone who has benefited from a trail, concert, playground, art piece, or program, thank you, RAMP. Any questions?
No, well presented. Council, do you have any questions or comments? I know that this is a consent item, but however, this is our opportunity to accept any public comments, so I really would like to open it up for anyone here who would wish to comment regarding our ramp our ramp reauthorization. Sorry. Sure. Just make sure you state your name and your city.
Jory Argyle, I'm a Layton resident as well. I just want to speak up for RAMP. I think it's amazing. I've said for a while now, I think it's one of the best things that happened to Layton in decades. And one of the things I look at when I think about RAMP is I think about the money it actually brings into our city. So people don't come here to go to concerts and they don't come in, go to a concert and leave. They don't come in, go to plays and then leave. They don't come in, go to our parks and leave, but they come in, they go to all those places and they buy food, they buy fuel, they buy all these things while they're here. So not only is it benefiting our city through what we benefit through the arts and the parks, but it's also benefiting our city because we're getting additional income because of it. And I think that's a point a lot of people don't look at. They just hear tax, which it's such a nominal tax, it's tiny, and it doesn't affect essential life. But all the additional, the indirect benefits it brings to our city are huge. And so, again, I think what we saw today is gigantic, it's amazing, but then looking at the indirect benefits too, I just hope that people see that and want to kind of share with that. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll make one clarification here, just so you know that when we speak of the food, it's not on the grocery store foods. It's more on your prepared foods and that folks really from outside of Layton generally come here and kind of enjoy our fine restaurants and that. And also excluded from that is gasoline as well. So, but regardless, it's been a great past 10 years. You can see how well the city has benefited from it. And quite honestly, there's a lot of programming and facilities that we were able to build that otherwise it might not have come about yet. It would have taken us longer to be able to fund it. So thank you to all the residents that have in the past supported this initiative, and I hope going forward that they'll also consider to mark the box with a yes. So, sure.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate that this is a 1 penny out of every $10 in sales tax spent here in the city. So that means spent not just by those of us who live here, but also the people who come to visit. And then lastly, just to remind all of us of all of the things that make us feel like we're at home. A lot of these have been funded by the RAMP tax. And I know tax is a scary, ugly word, but if this were not reauthorized, you would not see $17 million in your pocket. You would see 1 penny for every $10. And so for something that is such a small amount to our everyday life, to be able to provide these types of services and programs, I think is a really awesome tool. And I'm thankful that we have it. Just the Parks and Rec alone help me and many other parents throughout the city who like to put their kids in every single rec opportunity to see what sticks and what doesn't without having to spend too much money. So thanks, RAMP.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? If not, I'll go ahead and move on then to item number B of our consent items, which is a plat amendment, and Mr. Weston Apolloni is going to present this item to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a plat amendment for the YAG commercial subdivision. This is located on Main Street, in between Main Street and I-15, and just to the south is, and you can see in the purple, is our MUTOD, which is a mixed-use transit-oriented zone, which is borders this. The development proposed is in red. The purpose for the amendment is for two existing subdivision, to modify two existing subdivisions to create a new commercial subdivision. This is modifying the HIP and the Gill subdivisions, pardon me, to create a two-lot new commercial subdivision. So in this area, there's been a previous, I'll go back here, a building here, which is an office building, Pace's drive-through, and the old Ramblin' Roads. These two buildings have been demolished. Pace's drive-through will stay. This is a storage unit area. This has been demolished as well. The Pace's drive-through will stay located on this lot here, and the remaining lot will be a part of the subdivision lot that will be for the new dealership. The purpose and intent is to put in a new young Kia dealership. On September 9th, 2025, the Planning Commission voted unanimously, on April 22nd, 2025, the Planning Commission granted to approve a conditional use permit for the car dealership. And on September 9th, 2025, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the City Council approve this plat amendment, the YAG Commercial Subdivision Phase 1, subject to meeting all city requirements. Staff supports the recommendations of the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Council, any questions?
Ma'am, please. I have a question, Weston. Could you speak to the need for conditional use in this area? So like what the zone is and what was the need for conditional use that has been approved since April?
Yeah, absolutely. So this zone is the area identified in the red, and the zone moving forward is all zone CH, which is Highway Commercial Zone. And that requires a conditional use approval done by the Planning Commission for specific uses. One of those uses is a car dealership. So we identify specific uses that go in that may have a major impact, and we do a thorough vetting and review and recognize if there's any other additional conditional use requirements that need to be tied to that development before they're permitted and approved.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can you bring up the plat? Yeah, the lots. It's kind of a unique property line on the south side of Paces. Are these the same owner or different owners, these two lots?
Lot 101 and 102.
Right.
They're different owners. Lot 102 is the car dealership. Okay. And there are cross-access easements between the two lots to share getting in and getting out. I'm assuming that there was a parking agreement before. There won't be now? Just cross-access easement.
Just access, okay. Do you feel that lot is adequately sized for parking and stacking vehicles?
It is, and it meets current code.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Weston. We appreciate that. We'll go on to item number C, which is an amendment for an interlocal agreement between Layton City and the Davis County Transportation Project. And Mr. Steve Jackson will present this to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's good to be with you tonight. For your consideration is Amendment Number 1 of the Interlocal Cooperation Agreement between Layton City and Davis County for Transportation Project Reimbursement, Resolution 2548. Back in 2023, Layton City received project money in the amount of $880,000 to assist in completing and widening the road at 3200 West and West Hillfield Road. There was a timeline placed on that, funds to be spent of January of 2025. However, there's been a few delays in completing the design and working through some details with property acquisition. So we've requested that the county extend the date of us completing the project to June 30th, 2027, and they have agreed to that. So this amendment number 1 essentially keeps all the same terms in the agreement, just extends that deadline out to June 30th of 2027. Staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2548 and authorize the mayor to execute the amendment number 1 for the agreement. Is there any questions I can answer for the council on this?
Council, any questions?
I'll just bring up the question I asked during the work meeting, and that was, we know that the extension is due to some discussions with acquiring the property, and so yeah, I understand why there was a need to extend it, but just wondering realistically what city's expectation is. Is it expected that it will take till June of 2027 to actually have this completed? Or what is your realistic expectation on the city side?
If all goes well, we anticipate sending this out to bid later this year with an early spring construction date and then constructing it through the summer of 2026. So hopefully we don't need to be into that 2027 time frame. So that's the anticipation. Hopefully we're close and we're ready to move. We have the design 99% finished. We're just buttoning up some loose ends and we'll get it out. So.
And just have the extra time in case there are any other hiccups.
Just in case something happened with the construction or something, they've granted us that extra time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Councilman Roberts, did you still have a question? Okay. Anyone else? I think if anything, we need to extend an appreciation to the Davis County COG for willing to work with us on this, knowing that we needed that extension and they were willing to accept it. So I just want to say thanks to them. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to item number D, which is another interlocal agreement. Excuse me, we just did D.
Yes, it's very much the same wording there,
Yeah.
Mayor. That's why it looks the same.
Okay, go ahead and cover it.
Okay, yeah, so Resolution 25-49 is also an amendment number 1 to a separate interlocal agreement we have with Davis County for transportation reimbursement. This one is for project along West Hillfield Road between 3200 West and 2700 West in the same area. It's shown up there in the green on the screen. Again, we received a grant for $3.12 million from the Davis County COG in January of 2024. Again, had some delays on property acquisition and design, and so we've requested that this agreement will expire in January of 2026, and with the delay, we requested an extension to the same June 30th of 2027 timeline. The COG has graciously granted us that extension with this agreement, and so we plan to do the same schedule for this. We anticipate bidding both of these projects as one project to have the work completed by one contractor to avoid multiple contractors working in the same area, and we think that'll actually help make the project more successful. So again, the staff recommends council adopt Resolution 25-49, authorizing the mayor to execute amendment number 1 to the interlocal cooperation agreement between Layton City and Davis County for transportation project reimbursement. Is there any questions I can answer on this one?
Any questions, council? You've done a good job then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, that concludes our consent items as far as being presented. So now I'll bring it back to the council to go ahead and take action on these items. And if you could, please state the purpose or the resolution number. Thank you.
Just had a question. A kind of seems out of place in consent. Is that something we need to take action on? Are we
accepting the comments that were made, or?
Yeah, I think it's just accepting that
Okay.
there was public comment, you accepted it.
Okay. All right. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept, that we adopt the consent items, including item A, accepting public comment regarding the ramp tax reauthorization. Item B, plat amendment of YAG Commercial Subdivision Phase 1. Item C, Resolution 25-48, and item D, Resolution 25-49.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we accept the items as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll now move on to our public hearing portion of our meeting. Again, we'll have Mr. Jackson present this item to us, and it's adopting our master transportation plan, as well as the roadway impact fees and facilities and the transportation impact fees analysis. So, Mr. Jackson.
Right, thank you, Mayor and Council. It's good to be with you tonight. Before you, for your consideration, is the adoption of the Transportation Master Plan, Impact Fee Facilities Plan, and Transportation Impact Fee Analysis, Resolution 25-47. I want to acknowledge and recognize our consultants that helped us with this project, as well as our city staff in engineering. A lot of hard work went into this with quite a few revisions and analysis that needed to happen. So Wall Consultant Group and then Zion Public Finance also worked on the impact fee analysis for us. The current plan that the city has was created in 2017 by Horrocks Engineers. This new update, as mentioned, was Wall Consultant Group. The three components to the plan we've mentioned are the Transportation Master Plan, as you can see, TMP, and the Impact Fee Facilities Plan, IFFP, and then the Impact Fee Analysis, the IFA. So what these documents do is guide the city transportation facility investment through the years 2034 and also out to 2050. As we look at the growth that inevitably is coming to the city, we want to make sure we're planning ahead and identifying areas where modifications or projects need to be done. It also supports the city growth and regional mobility in the area because it ties into not only the city's plans but also our neighboring cities and also the Wasatch Front Regional Council's transportation plans that are going through their revisions as well. So, and then it also ensures safety and accessibility and economic viability, so we don't have traffic impacts that create problems for our citizens and our city as we go throughout. So wanted to jump over to the story map real quick. This is an online story map that will be available to the public if this is adopted, that allows us to talk a little bit about how the transportation plan was put together. You can see down here there's the introduction, functional classifications, travel demand models, all of the components of this master plan. So obviously our consultant looked at our existing master plan that we had as we talked through it with them and some of the concerns and needs that needed to be updated in it. They used the information from that with our planning department to identify population growth. So we have a population, obviously back in 1990 we were 41,000. We're currently just over 80,000, closer to 85,000, and we plan to continue to grow. That's what the items that you see throughout the city are as people develop and people want to live here. It's a great place to be. So we classify each one of the roads in the city. Obviously some roads are wider than others because they carry more capacity. They allow people to get around differently, and so we have to find a balance between mobility and land access. So local roads allow a lot greater access to the facilities that are along them, whereas arterials are a little bit less accessible, but they have higher mobility on them. So you can see in the maps here the color coordination, and it's very interactive. When you're on the website, you'll be able to click on these and see the different functional classifications of each one of the roads. Some of the roads, again, the principal arterials, this is a fairly large roadway. We don't have, these are usually state roads in our city, 124 feet wide, 7 lanes of travel with shoulders. But the important part to that is that we have some options with those shoulders to be able to do side treatments, bike lanes, shared use paths, other things like that as we look at the plans and the different components to the way that this plan has been put together. So this slide shows more of the arterial roads that we have: West Hillfield Road, 2700 West, Antelope Drive, Gordon Avenue, Highway 193. And then as you get into the minor arterials, that's more like sections of Gordon Avenue, Gentile Street, Fairfield, Fort Lane. And then as you drop even further, you drop into collector roads, which are, I'll click on this one here. They help people get from the neighborhoods, the local roads, into the, collectors, and then the collectors to the arterials, right? So again, this is what the configuration could be for a 66-foot right-of-way, where you'd have a center turn lane with drive lanes and then 5-foot shoulders on it, but also the ability to do side treatments as needed per the other plans that we have. So our consultant looks at the level of service. They look at the level of service and say, what is an acceptable level of service? The industry standard is level of service D. I know that doesn't sound great when you're talking about grades, but unfortunately engineers are not very creative as we go through the system, and so A through F is what it is. Level of service D means that most times of the day you'll see normal flows, but then during the peak hours you're going to see a little bit heavier traffic, maybe a little bit of delay, but not something that is gridlocked that you just are stuck in traffic for hours. So they analyze that with the travel demand model, and they come up with the current conditions. You can see anything that's yellow or red is an area that is a D or below. Everything else in green is above the D. So currently, right now, fairly decent, configuration of our roads and how we're doing currently. And then we look at future growth and the potential for what would be as the city grows into 2034. So on the if I slide this over on the screen here, it shows what would occur if we didn't do any transportation investment in the city, what the roadways would look like as far as the level of service. And if I slide it over here to the left, it shows what would be the configuration for the level of service if we start to do the things that are proposed in this plan. So you can see it allows us to help manage and identify areas where growth will occur and potentially create traffic congestion that we can then mitigate through different kinds of projects. And then again, we have a map for 2050, so as you slide it to the right here, the no-build configuration doesn't look great at all. And then the build configuration obviously shows that there are going to be some roads that will be a level of service D during those peak times, but nothing in the failing categories that we would need to address for the most part. So what do they do with all that information? They come back and they analyze where there might be potential issues, and they look at roadway projects that would be able to be completed to help with some of those issues. And so they broke that out into 3 phases for us, basically 10-year windows. So phase 1 is everything in the red. It shows the next 10 years, and then phase 2 would be 2034 and beyond, and phase 3 is the section behind that. So again, there's a list of projects here that I won't go through every one of them, but as we look at it, they look at roadway projects. A lot of those contain widenings or improvements, like there would be potential for taking care of maybe unimproved roads that only have a gravel shoulder, things like that. Operations would be reconfiguring the roadways to handle more travel lanes, striping, things like that would help with all of those items. And then they looked at intersections, and they said, where are the intersections going to need projects? A lot of these are signals or what they call hot crossings, pedestrian hybrid beacons. So you can see there's several of those on the project list that need to be completed in the next 10 year and beyond. And then they also took a look at public transit. So we talked with UTA and we said, what are your plans? And they provided us with this 5-year service plan. So as part of this plan and in the documentation, you can see that there are considerations for what transit needs would be in the city. We're excited to see UTA's plans for Layton in the next 5 years. We're also excited to see if we can get some expansion as we move out west and see development out in those areas. So And then we also took into consideration our recently adopted active transportation plan, so bike lanes and trails and all of those things in that plan are also part of the projects that are proposed. And so as we see a project need on one of these plans, we can coordinate them and try and implement them as best we can as we move forward, as the demand increases throughout the city. So, and then they also performed a safety analysis for us where they looked at the last 5 full years of crash data in the city. You can see the hotspot density diagram here. It talks about, well, you can see along I-15, along the major roadway corridors, you could see it's a little bit more, there's more crashes. Obviously, those roads carry a lot more traffic, a lot more vehicular things, and so they've actually recommended a few items for us to look at where we could maybe look at right turn restrictions. We could look at pedestrian, leading intervals so that we can, allow pedestrians to cross the road before the cars are crossing and things like that. So overall, it's a very comprehensive plan. Helps us guide us as to which projects we need to do. As we jump back over to the presentation for a second, we then take that information and we use it to create what's called the Impact Fee Facilities Plan. So as the city grows, the state has allowed us through the Impact Fee Act to charge impact fees to new development that comes into the city. So as we take a look at the impact fees, it identifies roadways that are needed to accommodate anticipated development. It only allows us to include growth-related projects, no existing deficiencies. It complies with the Utah Code for the Impact Fee Act, and it's focused on the 10 years of capital improvements that would be needed as well. The anticipated growth in the city in the next 10 years is just over 122,000 average daily trips. Based on that analysis, we look at that and we say, what do we need to do to be able to, keep our roads at a level of service D or better? So inside that Impact Fee Facilities Plan, there's 13 projects with a total cost of $71 million. 11.4 million of that are impact fee eligible, or 12.9 when you factor in inflationary costs. One of the items to note is that there's about $31 million worth of outside funding that we anticipate trying to seek in order to help pay for some of these projects, and then the city would be able or would need to cover the remaining amounts of that through the city project funds, and then eventually be able to recoup the impact fees that are spent prior to that 10-year growth window. On the intersection plans, there's 14 projects with $6.2 million in cost. Again, about $2 million of that would be outside funding, and then the rest would be impact fee eligible at the $4.3 million. So what do we do with that? That's part 2. Part 3 is the impact fee analysis. So we take that information from the Impact Fee Facilities Plan and we calculate out what the impact fee should be charged on new development as they come into the city. It calculates the fee to ensure that new development pays their proportionate share. Again, complies with the Impact Fee Act. The impact fees are based on the ADT rather than the PM peak traffic. We talked about that a lot in our work meeting last meeting, and talked about what we can do with the plan or with the funds. We have to spend it on items on the list, and they have to be spent or encumbered within 6 years after the fee is paid. We use what's called the ITE codes, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineers code for trip generation, categorizing different uses. They've done studies across the country to determine what uses generate what kind of traffic. The impact fees can be implemented 90 days following an adoption by the City Council, and so that we would ask you to consider is that if this is adopted, that then you also adopt the impact fees for implementation 90 days following this meeting. That would be most likely best to just set the January 5th of 2026 date, as that is the first Monday after the 90-day window. So as you look at all those numbers, all of the money that needs to be collected to spend on these projects, the calculation comes out to $173.37 in per trip, so per daily trip that is generated. So you do the math on that of the 122,414 average daily trips, and this is how it breaks out. So there are existing capacities in our system that we're allowed to charge for. So we've spent money on projects that have created capacity that developers are then using for growth. The new roadways is 105, and then the intersections is about $35 of that. And then there's a little bit of a fund balance, so they get a credit. So that's how the number comes out. With that, you take the trip generation manual, and then you put in here the land use codes, and we work closely with our Community and Economic Development Department to ensure that the codes that we're using are reflective of the development that we anticipate or that we are currently seeing in the city. And then as you calculate that out, basically, just for time's sake here, you take this 173.37, you multiply it by this adjusted trip rate in this column, and that's the number that you get for the maximum or proposed maximum fee. So you can see for a single family home, it would be about $1,600 that we would charge for that dwelling unit. That's slightly down from the last last rendition that we did. There's less projects in this 10-year window than there was in the past, but just kind of a comparison there for you. So you can see there's a long list of these. Want to make sure that we're trying to be fair and equitable with everybody that comes into the city. And so we've tried to be comprehensive in the work that we've done in order to make sure that we're meeting all those demands. I do want to point out as well, there is a procedure in our current ordinances, and it's per state code, that there is an appeal process. If somebody doesn't agree with their fee, they can come in and actually appeal that fee based on actual trip generation data. If their business, if they feel like it doesn't reflect what their business is actually doing. Don't have a lot of those, but it is an option for somebody if they feel like they don't fit into one of these categories. So with that, staff obviously recommends the adoption of the Resolution 2547, authorizing the Transportation Master Plan, Impact Fee Facilities Plan, and Transportation Impact Fee Analysis to be adopted with the caveat that the impact fees do not go into effect until January 5th of 2026. After the council takes public comments on this, I'd be happy to answer any questions now or however you'd like to do that, Mayor. So.
Okay. Let me start out with council. Do you have any additional questions on this at all?
Question.
Okay,
Mayor.
Councilman Mayor?
Maybe a couple questions. Once again, thanks for this work. It's fascinating analysis. We just talked about widening, or the project to widen Hillfield Road out west. Mm-hmm. Is that going to move that part of it up a category to the rest of the arterial? I think it stopped and then.
Yeah, basically the plan was that is currently a 3-lane facility. It could go up to the 5-lane eventually. Yeah.
And then second, funding. So you all do a great job of finding grants and everywhere, federal, state, UDOT, the COG, Davis County, all of everywhere. After all that's said and done, it doesn't seem like and we've been in budget meetings, it doesn't seem like, how do we fund our roads? I mean, moving forward, the gas tax isn't helping, it's not keeping up. Your thoughts on funding moving forward?
Honestly, as we look at these costs and the way that they're continuing to go, we need to do everything we can to go get funding from any outside source that we can find. But one of the things that honestly the city needs to consider is whether or not a transportation utility fee is appropriate to look at. Several cities have used those to bridge that gap that's there. One of the things that I want to point out is that the funding that we can't collect in impact fees, but we have to spend to build the road. You have to build a road in 2 lanes at a time, right? You don't build it in half a lane or any of that stuff. So there is money that we're spending as a city that then we can recoup in future, impact fee analysis that we do. That's what that buy-in cost line is. So So developers will eventually end up need to pay whatever the capacity is that they're bringing in or using in the system, but the way that the impact fee laws changed a few years ago requires that we can only functionally use the next 10 years worth of impact fee money.
So
to do that.
the 2-lane at a
Yeah.
time out right off of the Parkway so where the Parkway meets 2700 West,
Yes.
that's only 2 lanes right now. That's what you're
Yes.
talking about, that the next when development happens on
We'll
on the
finish
west
that
side. it'll
road in
finish.
full width, yes.
Wait, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, sir? If not, then council, I would ask for a motion to open up our public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move that we open the public hearing to discuss the adoption of the Transportation Master Plan, Resolution 25-47.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the public hearing is now open, so if anyone in the audience wishes to address us regarding this one particular item, you're more than welcome to. Once again, state your name and what city you're from up here at the mic.
Jory Argyle, West Layton. Guess I got up here more than I planned today. I actually have a couple questions. I'm a huge fan, a huge component for transportation. I think anything we can do to improve transportation is high value, and I'm happy to see improvements to our east-west travel, which has failed a lot of other cities in Utah. So that's great to see. One question I have, looking at the impact fee, has there been cross-collaboration with the utilities group? Have we looked at any opportunities to tap into the opportunity to get water, wastewater, stormwater, basically those other utilities that are allowed through that, brought in as well, so that then when we are building our roads, tearing up, digging down, putting in new road base and all that, we're able to go the extra 5 feet or 10 feet and fix our utilities, or, expand them to adapt for the growth. So I'm just curious if there's been any discussion or look at that, and if not, is that something that the city could do at a later time to add on with the impact fees? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think what we'll do is ask if there's anyone else, any more questions, and then we can address them all at once. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions, so Mr. Jackson, do you want to go ahead and answer that one since that's right in your department?
Thank you for that question. Yes, the answer to that is that we actually do have impact fees for storm drain, water. We're discussing a sewer impact fee that we're planning to bring back to the City Council to review as well. In the past, we haven't needed one of those. With the growth we're seeing, we might need to consider that. But yes, we do try to make sure that on every project that we have in the city, we're judicious with what we do, and if we're going to remove the pavement on a road, we certainly want to look at those utilities, especially existing ones, and make sure that we're replacing those so that we don't cut a brand new road that is constructed. A lot of these projects are either growth related, so they're widening, so it's existing pavement or whatnot, but any brand new road, obviously we would put brand new utilities in, and any existing road, we would look at the condition of those before we ended up doing the project and collaborate on the budgeting to request the appropriate funding for that. So,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
I appreciate that. Okay. If there's no other comments, then I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council for action. So they'll need to close the public hearing and then take action on Resolution 25-47.
Madam Mayor, I move that we first close the public hearing and adopt Resolution 25-47, the adoption of the Transportation Master Plan, Roadway Impact Fees, Facilities Plan, and Transportation Impact Fee Analysis, with the effective date is January 5th, 2026, for the impact fees.
Okay, perfect.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt the plan as presented. Being that this is a public hearing item, I'll do a roll call vote on this. Start out with Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
And Councilmember Smith Edmondson.
Just before I vote, I just want to thank Steve and crew for putting that plan together. I did ask in the work meeting that this would be one of those plans that would be accessible on the city site or from the city site, so the public has access to it. And Steve confirmed that even the interactivity of that would be accessible to the public, which is really awesome. We get a lot of questions about traffic and roads and all of the things. And I did highlight last meeting that yellow D that says unstable, that seems to be the standard. Maybe needs to have a new name, because D and yellow doesn't look very good to people when they're trying to drive. But this is a resource that will help all of us be able to see like what's happening and how things are moving. So with that, I vote aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a unanimous vote, so the master plan has been accepted. That's also the last item on our agenda for tonight. And at the same time, I do want to acknowledge the fact that I did have 2 requests for council members to not be present tonight due to personal information that they needed to deal with. So with that, I do want to excuse them. And we've got a group of boys in the back here. I'm just curious. Why don't you have a spokesman come up and tell us your purpose of being here and what you've learned tonight or whatever. All right, we got the brave one here. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. We've never met before, but I appreciate the council and everything you guys do. We are a youth group from the city. We just live up near Gordon Avenue, where part of the master plan of the community is planned in some the empty lots up there. So we brought the boys down to see a city council meeting. It's actually my first city council meeting as well. So not a lot of comments from us, but a lot of questions as far as how it works and what's involved. So, and they weren't brave enough to come up here, so they made me do it.
Hey, the fact that you guys is here is what matters, and I appreciate you taking the leadership to kind of really educate our youth. I mean, that's one thing that we want to, we're proud of here in Layton and want to really involve our youth at all levels. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Okay, with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Thomas is not here, so somebody else gets to do it.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, thank you, and thank you everyone for attending tonight's meeting.